In 1988, Michael Jackson purchased a 2,700-acre property in Santa Barbara County, California for $19.5 million. He named it Neverland Ranch, after the fantasy island in Peter Pan where children never grow up. For the next 17 years, this place will become one of the most famous and most misunderstood private residences in the world. Hundreds of people work there: gardeners, security guards, housekeepers, animal caretakers, chefs. They saw Michael Jackson almost every day. Not the performer, not the icon, just Michael. And for decades, most of them stayed silent, until now. When Michael Jackson first walked onto that property in Los Olivos, it wasn't called Neverland. It was called Sycamore Valley Ranch, and it was beautiful but ordinary rolling hills. Some structures, potential. Michael saw something else entirely. Mark Quindoy worked as an administrative coordinator at Neverland. In a 2019 interview, he remembered the early days. Michael had these massive blueprints spread out everywhere. He'd point to empty fields and describe carousels, a zoo, a train station. We thought he was dreaming, but he wasn't dreaming, he was planning. The construction was relentless. A floral clock with over 4,000 flowers, a private amusement park with a Ferris wheel, carousel, zipper, spider, sea dragon, and more. A 2-story arcade filled with the latest games, all set to free play. A private zoo that would eventually house orangutans, elephants, giraffes, exotic birds, and Bubbles, his famous chimpanzee. Adrian McManus, who worked as a personal maid at Neverland, described the scope. Every week, something new would appear. One day, it's a popcorn cart. The next, it's an entire theater being built. Michael wanted it to feel magical for every single person who walked through those gates. But here's what most people don't understand. Neverland wasn't built for Michael Jackson the celebrity. It was built for Michael Jackson the wounded child. Multiple staff members have described Michael's daily routine, and it was surprisingly normal. He'd wake up late, sometimes around noon. He'd usually be wearing pajamas, often red or black. He loved pajamas. Sometimes he'd stay in them all day. Bill Whitfield, one of Michael's bodyguards who worked with him in later years but visited Neverland, said, "People think he was this eccentric recluse, but he was just a guy who wanted privacy. He'd eat cereal, watch cartoons, play with his kids, normal stuff." Chef Kai Chase, who worked for Michael in his final years, remembered his eating habits. He loved Mexican food, especially cheese quesadillas. Kentucky Fried Chicken, always original recipe. And he had this thing for Thai food. People expected him to eat like a superstar. He ate like a kid. Neverland staff described a man who was soft-spoken, polite to a fault, and deeply uncomfortable with confrontation. He'd often leave notes instead of giving direct criticism. "Please remember to water the roses near the main gate, they're looking thirsty," with a hand-drawn smiley face. The main house at Neverland was 12,598 square feet, 6 bedrooms, massive living spaces, and decorated like a bizarre combination of a European castle and a toy store. Adrian McManus described the interior. Every room had something unexpected. Life-size statues of children, including some of him as a child. Paintings everywhere, classical art mixed with Disney characters. In his bedroom, he had a mannequin of a British guard in full uniform just standing there. The bedroom itself was relatively simple. A large bed, dark wood furniture, and walls covered in framed photographs, mostly of children. Some were of him with famous kids like Macaulay Culkin or Emmanuel Lewis. Others were random children from around the world. He collected images of children the way some people collect stamps, McManus said. To him, they represented innocence, purity, everything he felt he'd lost. His bathroom was stocked with industrial-sized bottles of skin, bleaching, cream, a detail that would later become evidence in legal proceedings, though staff members insist it was prescribed by dermatologists for his vitiligo. Neverland Zoo required a full-time staff. At its peak, there were more than a dozen employees dedicated solely to animal care. The elephants Ali and Baba required constant attention. Mike LaPerouse, who served as Michael's head of security, recalled, "Those elephants ate better than most people. Fresh produce delivered daily. Michael would visit them almost every afternoon, just standing there, watching them." Bubbles the chimp lived in a custom-built enclosure that was, by all accounts, nicer than most human apartments. Climate-controlled, filled with toys and cleaned twice daily. But here's what former staff members want people to understand. Michael didn't keep these animals as exotic pets. He saw himself as a rescuer. Every animal there had a story. One former zookeeper said in a 2009 interview, requesting anonymity, "The llamas were rescued from a farm that was closing. The giraffes came from a zoo that couldn't afford to keep them." Michael saw himself as giving them a better life. And honestly, he did. This is the part of the Neverland story that became the most controversial, the most analyzed, the most weaponized. Here's what staff members consistently report. Thousands of children visited Neverland Ranch, inner-city children from Los Angeles, sick children from hospitals, kids from disadvantaged backgrounds. Buses would arrive, the children would pour out, and Michael would disappear. He didn't want recognition, Mark Quindoy explained. He'd watch from a distance sometimes, but mostly, he just wanted them to have fun. No cameras, no press, just kids being kids. The amusement park rides were always free. The arcade never required tokens. The candy was unlimited. For many of these children, especially those facing terminal illnesses, Neverland represented one perfect day. But Michael also had special friends. Kids he'd grown close to, who'd visit privately, who'd sometimes stay overnight. This is where the story gets complicated. In the 2019 documentary Leaving Neverland, two men, Wade Robson and James Safechuck, made detailed allegations of sexual abuse at Neverland. These allegations divided public opinion and reignited a global debate about Michael Jackson's legacy. But what did the staff actually see? The answers are complicated and often contradictory. Adrienne McManus testified in the 2005 trial that she witnessed inappropriate behavior, including Michael holding hands with young boys and seeing them in his bedroom. However, she also admitted under cross-examination that she'd never witnessed any sexual activity and that she'd sold her story to tabloids for significant money. Other staff members have vehemently defended Michael. Chantal Robson, who worked in special events at Neverland, said, "I saw Michael with children constantly. I saw hugging. I saw laughter. I saw a man who genuinely loved kids in the most innocent way possible. Did I ever see anything sexual? Absolutely not." The 2005 trial, The People of California versus Michael Joe Jackson, featured testimony from numerous Neverland employees. The prosecution presented evidence that Michael had plied children with alcohol, which he called Jesus juice, showed them pornography, and engaged in inappropriate touching. Michael was acquitted on all 14 counts. What fewer people discuss is what Neverland cost Michael Jackson financially and emotionally. The ranch required a staff of 150 people at its peak. By 2006, Michael was drowning in debt. Neverland had become a financial black hole. Tome, who briefly managed Michael's finances, said in a 2009 interview, "The ranch was killing him financially, but he couldn't let it go. It was his childhood, his escape, his proof that he could create something pure." In 2006, the ranch fell into foreclosure. Michael never lived there full-time again. Here's something that complicates the narrative even further. Many staff members sued Michael Jackson for unpaid wages and wrongful termination, yet several still defend him publicly. 5 employees, the so-called Neverland Five, filed a lawsuit in 1994, claiming wrongful dismissal after they'd allegedly witnessed inappropriate behavior and were prepared to testify. The case was settled out of court, yet other employees, who worked there for years, maintained that Michael was a kind, generous employer who was targeted because of his wealth and fame. Ralph Chacon, one of the Neverland Five, later admitted in a 2003 interview, "I needed the money. Was everything I said true? I believed it at the time, but was I 100% certain? No." The truth, it seems, depends on who you ask and when you ask them. After the 2005 trial, even though he was acquitted, Michael Jackson never truly returned to Neverland. Security was reduced, the animals were gradually rehomed, the rides stopped operating. The gardens, once immaculate, grew wild. Jesus Salas, who worked as a groundskeeper until 2006, described the decay. "It was heartbreaking. This place that had been so alive just died. The Ferris wheel rusted. The flower clock stopped working. It felt like watching someone's dream decompose. Michael himself said he could never feel the same way about Neverland after police raided it in 2003. In a 2005 interview with Jesse Jackson, he said, "They broke something sacred. I can't be there anymore. Too many ghosts." In 2020, Neverland Ranch was purchased by billionaire Ron Burkle, a fraction of its peak value. It's now officially called Sycamore Valley Ranch again. As if Michael's vision never existed, the zoo is gone. The amusement park has been dismantled. The train station stands empty. Most of the statues and decorations have been removed or sold at auction, but former staff members say you can still feel the energy of what it was. "I drove past it a few years ago," Adrian McManus said in a 2021 podcast interview. "Even from the road, even knowing it's different now, I could still see it, the way it was. The magic Michael tried to create." So, what's the truth about Neverland Ranch? Was it a sanctuary for a wounded man trying to reclaim his stolen childhood? Or was it something darker, a carefully constructed trap designed to lure vulnerable children? The honest answer: we may never fully know. What we do know is this: thousands of children visited Neverland and left with nothing but happy memories. Many of those children were sick, dying, or disadvantaged, and for them, Neverland was genuinely magical. We also know that some individuals have made credible, detailed allegations of abuse that occurred there. These allegations cannot be dismissed simply because Michael was acquitted in 2005. Former staff members are divided. Some remember a kind employer and a misunderstood man. Others describe behavior they found troubling, even if they couldn't definitively call it criminal. Perhaps the most profound testimony comes from Michael Jackson himself. In a 2003 interview with 60 Minutes, he said, "Why can't you share your bed? The most loving thing you can do is share your bed with someone. It's very charming, it's very sweet. It's what the whole world should do." For Michael, this statement reflected innocence. For many others, it raised every red flag imaginable. Neverland Ranch is now a silent estate in the Santa Barbara Hills. The laughter is gone. The music has stopped. The magic has faded. But the questions remain. What did those staff members really witness? What happened behind those ornate gates when the buses left and the cameras turned off? We have testimonies. We have court documents. We have photographs and videos and endless speculation. But we don't have certainty. And maybe that's the most unsettling truth about Neverland Ranch, that despite all the investigations, all the trials, all the testimonies, we're still left wondering what was real and what was illusion. Just like Peter Pan's Neverland, the truth may be a place we can see but never quite reach.